Hi everyone, this is Kelsey and I'm the Vice Chief of Editing of the World Update. We're the branch of the GNS Inc. that are going to be responsible for presenting you with encouraging and uplifting news and updates that are happening within the local, regional, and global things that are going on. We feel there's enough bad news being broadcast in our lives, so why not hear something good? Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at _the_U_. Let's update and uplift.
This is Max from Sacramento, and you are listening to Decal with the E.I.T.H.R podcast.
So, let's start with the E.I.T.H.R.
You're listening to the E.I.T.H.R podcast with Decal.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's your boy Decal here, hosting the E.I.T.H.R podcast at the GNSHQ here in Northern California. It's a rainy Wednesday. Today is the 11th of January, 2023. Hope everyone is out there being safe. It's not as windy today, so that's a good thing. Not as dangerous, not as many trees falling. And listen, for everyone who thinks California doesn't know how to brave any type of weather, you need to come out west and try to check some of this shit out, because this is ridiculous. I mean, there's literally trees falling on people's houses, trees falling on people's cars, school buses. There's been palm trees knocked over, making streets blocked off. There's streets flooded, houses, Central California flooded where feet, I'm not talking about just inches of water, feet of water. It's ridiculous. Feet of water inside of people's houses, cars covered, so on and so forth. Y'all be safe out there, man. If you're new to tuning into the podcast, appreciate your time and you dedicating a little bit of your day to hearing what the hell it is that I have to say here. And if you're a repeat listener, much respect and appreciation to your dedication to hearing what I have to say. The E.I.T.H.R podcast is a platform I created so there is a space haven for those who want to hear things from a non-biased perspective, where you see different sides of a topic, whether you agree with it or not. We're not here to try to sell you anything, but at least give you some insight on some things that you may not have seen, so you have a little bit more of an informed opinion from things that's going on. It's an acronym. The E.I.T.H.R stands for Elephant in the Room, so that's what we like to talk about, is certain topics and discussions, so on and so forth, and that's what we're going to do. We'd like to start this thing off with some shout outs. First thing I want to do is shout out to all the people that's working in the power lines and the water and first aid, everyone during the storm here in Northern California and anywhere else in the country. When you have a power line that's knocked over because of the elements and it's in a puddle of water and people have electricity out, this is a dangerous job. You know, electricity and water necessarily don't mix, and these people are braving the elements to make sure that you have electricity and you have power in your home. So it may not happen as fast as you wanted to. There's a lot of territory out here that's out of power. So shout out to them. And motivational, inspirational, I'm going to say this one time. I have a quote that I've always said to people, and that quote is, compete but never compare. There's a post that you can follow, you can see on our social media, Instagram, Twitter, same handle. It's the E.I.T.H.R, E.I.T.H.R on Instagram as well as Twitter. And this meme I posted earlier, I can't be around people who think my growth is competition. If we can't be happy for one another, we have nothing in common. And that's some true shit. There's a lot of people who are envious of what it is that you have because your plan is taking off faster than theirs. And circumstances aren't the same for everybody. So you're in your own lane. Some lanes have more traffic than others. But it doesn't matter how long it takes you to get there as long as you reach the destination. We're going to get right into the E.I.T.H.R podcast right after this. So stick with us. We'll be right back in a few seconds, ladies and gentlemen.
Most t-shirts are simply cool to look at and or look in. Well, so are ours. But ours also aim to send a message. They aim to put a name on obstacles that once stood in your way and aren't there anymore. Struggles that you turned into successes and crushed. You made it look easy. Shop at mile.today. Mile.today. www.mile.today. A GNS collection.
Hey, this your girl Key, and I'm calling from Compton, and you listening to E.I.T.H.R podcast with D-Cal.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's your boy D-Cal here at the E.I.T.H.R podcast. Before we get into this first part that I want to talk about, I want to start this thing off on a positive note. So, anybody who knows me knows that I've had this GNS Inc. idea for the longest time. At least nearly going on 20 years, where I had the idea. And nothing happens overnight. Well, I'll take that back. Things happen overnight over time. It just takes years for shit to build up for that night to come. So the purpose of me creating this thing is so that way I don't have to worry about any wells drying up. Doesn't matter what business takes off faster than the other. It's all going to encompass one big thing, which is achieving the goal of financial freedom and giving myself space and alleviating any type of stress. I'm the kind of individual where when I'm dedicated to something, I'm all about that thing, whether it's an idea, a dream, relationship, whatever the case may possibly be, right? But it's also extremely frustrating when you put your whole heart into something and for whatever reason, the love isn't sent back. It's not given to you the same way that you gave it. And it's very discouraging, and it's very exhausting, and it's very, it can derail a lot of people. And anyone who knows my journey knows that it hasn't been the easiest journey with what's going on. And Lord knows I'm not saying that my journey is any difficult than the next man, but it was difficult that I feel anybody should have to go through. So today I was able to come across some people and gave me a little bit of additional light at the end of my tunnel. And what I mean by that is one of the branches of GNS Inc. is GNS Entertainment. And for those who don't know what GNS Entertainment is, it's the entertainment branch of GNS Inc. GNS Inc. is kind of like my parent company, right? Think of it as a record label. And each business that I have is more like the artist of that record label. So GNS Entertainment is one of the branches of my parent. And I got in contact with somebody who gave me some information to inform me of what it was that I personally needed to do with the instrumentals that I have. The beats that you hear in the background of every single one of my podcasts, I created myself. Anyone who knows the process that I go through, it's very tedious, it's very annoying. I am in no way a music producer. I don't do what those people have done. Those people have been at it for decades. I mean, just decades of time. But I'm not going to sit back and say that this shit for me is a cakewalk. But this individual that I spoke with earlier gave me some insight of what I need to do to get my music put out there more on a broader platform, on a broader scale. So in the near future, you're going to be seeing more of GNS Entertainment, which is a beautiful thing, because part of GNS Entertainment is also getting into film, which is where the GNS ETV option is coming into. And I've said this before to people, if you have any short film or ideas that you want to put on the big screen, but you don't know or don't have any recourse to get in contact with TV networks or anything of that nature, I have a platform to where it's internet television. It's my very own version of Hulu or Netflix or any of those other platforms. It's very similar to that. So again, I spoke with somebody who shedded some good news on the music platform, which is a beautiful thing, because then I'll be able to protect and earn a residual off of the instrumentals that we have, and contacting artists, which I have an artist in mind to make music. So that's kind of a good thing. Anyone who knows, every now and then on Facebook Live on my personal page, I'll play music. So for someone who's doing a lot of this shit by himself, there's no corporate backup. There's true independent artists, quote unquote, air quote on the artist part. But things are starting to turn around in 2023. But it's taken me nearly 13 years to get to this point. So any of you guys out there who have a plan, who have a dream, don't get discouraged. This shit's on its way. Now, what I want to get into, you may have heard in the news, there's a gentleman, and I use that term loosely when I say gentleman, by the name of Collier Gwin, out in San Francisco. Collier Gwin, whatever the hell his name is, owns an art gallery out there in the city, San Francisco, California. And this video went viral, man. It's of this POS using a water hose on a homeless woman who appears to be sitting on the street in front of his location. Now, anyone who's been to San Francisco, California, whether you've been in Little Italy, whether you've been in the Financial District, the Fillmore District, Pack Heights, you understand San Francisco is one of the cities where Denver is similar. The way it's constructed, the streets are very narrow. It's a majority of one-way streets. It's congested because it's such a major hub for any and everything in its respective area. San Francisco, the Bay Area. And my man is using a damn water hose on this woman, and you can see the water hose in her face, since she's homeless, so who knows what her mindset is. But that's not a good look, man. It's just not, right? For someone to use a water hose on another human being, it kind of just takes me back to the time when water hoses were used on people of color, and how degrading that is, and how just embarrassing that is to be. This woman already has a situation, and here you go standing there just nonchalantly in your doorway with this hose, just saturating her whole face. It's already storming outside. It's already cold outside. This woman's situation is already bad as it is. And then you're going to humiliate her with doing some shit like this. There's a video I saw briefly on social media where the story goes, some woman verbally assaulted this man over the phone with a racial slur. And then, ironically, turned around and had to go to the same hotel that this person works at because their relative had passed away and there were no rooms available. And the video is of the clerk conducting himself pretty professionally when this woman came into the lobby of this hotel. And he simply just said, it's above me. There's nothing I can do. It's above me. The hotel next door, they're available. And then you hear the woman say, I'm sorry, my mother just died, or my grandmother just died, and I was under a lot of stress. And, certain people, listen, you have the freedom of speech and the freedom to do whatever you want to do. That's one of the great things about this country. I feel most of those people ignore the fact you have the freedom to do and say whatever you want to, but you're not free from the consequences that comes from that speech or that action. That's the part you can't grasp. See, certain people are extremely brave when they know nothing can happen to them. But the moment that protection is removed from them, and they're in a situation where they have to deal with the consequences of what they said or done, then a whole nother personality develops within them extremely quickly. They're apologetic, they're empathetic, they're understanding. They didn't mean what they said when they said it, but they meant what they said when they said it. It's interesting. So my man in San Francisco, he was very unapologetic, very unempathetic. He had no remorse when he was doing it. I don't even think he gave a fuck when he knew he was being recorded. But San Francisco has a musician named Young Selsky. And if you grew up in the Bay Area, we know about Selsky. He rolled up on this guy in a video. And again, people who do stupid shit like that, they don't ever think they're going to be approached with their actions, right? And that's one thing about social media too in general. There's a lot of tough people out in social media where when you can hide behind an avatar that's not even your picture, and you can hide behind a profile that might be a burner account, you're extremely tough. You're extremely tough when you're in the shadows, right? You throw the rock and hide your hand in a crowd and look around like it wasn't me. The problem is there's always somebody watching you. You just don't see it. And when these individuals are caught up, they don't know how to handle the consequence because they weren't expecting shit to happen to them. That's a bad life to live. Because then these people also quickly resorted to calling themselves the victim. Now they need protection from the consequences of the actions in which they took that initiated it. Right? Growing up, it was the second kid always got in trouble, never the first kid. And so usually when the antagonizer is approached by somebody, the person who's approaching them becomes the bully. That's what we see. And I usually make conversation and ask people, when you see someone getting into an argument or someone who has received a certain type of treatment, why don't we ever go after the person who gave the treatment to initiate the person who is reacting to that? We always tell people, grow thicker skin and get over it. But we never tell somebody to, get a heavier tongue before you speak. What say you guys?
There's no soul more listen. None more pure. God's favorite. It's D-Cal, and you're listening to the E.I.T.H.R podcast.
Yes, I am God's favorite. But we're going back to the first part. It's nobody understands for whatever reason. Whatever it is that they say, there's a consequence to it. And that always bothered me. Because I've had people say things to me. And I've had people make comments to me. And then when I react to those words, then all of a sudden, they're a victim. And it appears that, I'm the big black scary guy who's picking on whoever the individual is. And people say words hurt. But these are also the same people who are sensitive to certain words, who are quick to report you, or quick to fire you, or quick to suspend you, or take you off the schedule, or cancel you. The same people who tell you words just hurt and get over it. They're the most sensitive, generally. And these are also probably the same people who are the kind of person who have slick tongues and will let shit roll off their mouth. And so that's why they tell you, deal with it, because that's also how they treat people. But, what do you guys think about that? Going back to that question of Collier Gwin. You can Google this dude if you guys want to go ahead and give him your opinion. I suggest you do. Collier, last name Gwin. San Francisco, California. He has an art store. I don't think that shit should be tolerated. That's just me. You guys are more than welcome to give your feedback on the posts I have on social media or in general. So, next thing I want to talk about, there's a polar bear attack where it sounds worse than I think what it really is. There was a 32-year-old woman who jumped inside the enclosure because something had fell in there. So she jumped in the enclosure where the polar bear was and got near the bear, and the bear attacked her. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. What the hell are you doing jumping in an enclosure with a polar bear? I don't know what people are thinking in what we call the intelligence age, but we definitely are showing intelligence in this age. At 32 years old, you would think you knew better than to jump in an enclosure where there's an animal. I have this idea that people feel that when an animal is at a zoo, that animal doesn't do anything. We forget that these animals have instincts. They're animals. All because you're in there doesn't mean that the animal is not going to become an animal. I don't understand it. I mean, I'm glad the woman's okay, but I don't understand it. What happened to that one who jumped in the enclosure with the tigers? We get mad at a tiger for going tiger. It kind of goes back to the first thing where you feel you have the freedom to do something because it plays out in your head a certain way. But then when reality kicks in and it doesn't go the way that you imagined it was going to go, why are you the victim? Especially when you're dealing with a wild animal. I don't give a damn what the zoo say. Hey, have you ever thought about maybe these animals look at humans in a sense of the next motherfucker that gets in here, I'm going to tear his head off, because they're not meant to be encaged. Animals aren't necessarily meant to be viewed and seen as entertainment. Ever thought about that? How do you like it when you're in your car and someone just sitting there staring at you, mocking you, making fun of you? It kind of bothers you, right? You don't know what they're saying. You don't hear what they're saying. You just know that someone's staring at you. All right. It's kind of easy to imagine that's what an animal probably thinks as well. So when you jump in that enclosure with an animal, it's a great chance that that motherfucker is going to react a certain way. So, what do you guys think about that? What do you think about somebody jumping inside of a enclosure with a 10-foot, 1,200-pound animal? Do you think the animal was at fault for that shit? A coin flip. Maybe the bear should have known better. Maybe the bear should have known that this person approaching me means no harm. Because animals think like that. They logically put shit together like that. That's what animals do, right? Yeah. Cool. So, any Marvel fans out there? I know VP of editing for the World Update, she says she hates superhero movies. She's weird. But I'm expecting the new Kang movie to come out. Well, let me take that back. It's the new Ant-Man Quantumania with Kang as the main villain. And I'm excited to see this film because Jonathan Majors is a badass actor. He really, really, truly is. And Ant-Man is definitely one of those heroes where he's not flashy. His suit has no weapons to it. It just shrinks and enlarges, right? But the idea behind the film of when this shit started was, some would say that the film, it initially, quote unquote, on the timeline, was created when Ant-Man entered the quantum realm. If you guys seen the very first Ant-Man movie, you'll get it. Well, you can also go back and say, well, when Michael Douglas' character was Ant-Man and his wife went into the quantum realm, that's what started it all. If you're not in the Marvel movies, this is one of those things where I'm sure I lost you at one point. But those who actually watch the movies, they understand it. Also, for those who are MCU fans, understand something. The MCU version of these movies are not as accurate as the comic book. And if anyone who reads books, shout out to my A1, you understand the books are always better than the film. Always going to be better than the film. Because you have the book who is written by the person who created it, and the movie is their adaptation of what was written. So certain things will get left out. Certain things will get twisted around for entertainment purposes, right? So there's a lot of parts of the MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe, that people don't like because it doesn't match the comic book, which makes sense. Because you want it to be as close to the comic book as possible. The MCU, though, it may not be as detailed in every single aspect, but from an entertainment and dramatic purpose, I think they're doing an A-okay job. So I'm looking forward to that film, Ant-Man Quantumania, to see how Kang plays his part. And I feel that this film is really going to take Marvel movies with Disney on a whole new level. So I'm excited about that. Anywho, I appreciate you guys giving me some time on this podcast. I'm going to make it really short today just because it's Wednesday, it's raining. I just want to sit back and relax a little bit. So that's exactly what I'm going to do right now. But thank you very much for listening. For anybody who's new to the podcast, I appreciate you. You can follow me on social media, the E.I.T.H.R, E.I.T.H.R, Instagram, Twitter's the same. For those of you who feel strongly a certain way about using social media platforms, I completely understand that. You can go to YouTube and just search the parent company, which is the GNS Inc., THEGNS INC. subscribe to that page. Greatly appreciate that. And then you can see all 64 episodes. Hear all 64 episodes of the podcast. You can also download the Spreaker app, Spreaker, and you can chit with me during the time of the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, appreciate you. Holler back at you next time. Stay blessed.
Hey everybody, what's up? This is Sabrina Jade, and you're listening to the E.I.T.H.R podcast with D-Cal.